As far as I can see right now, September is going to be the quietest month of the rest of the year for me. With the bookshop, October, November, December. It's going to be really busy because I'm gonna do Halloween, I'm going to do Christmas, and I'm going to do it big. So whilst that is really exciting, I thought I could take on a reading challenge in September. So what better reading challenge than doing the magical readathon, which I've been doing for years. I have been making a few vlogs, but I usually just do it for me. Personally, it's really kind of my thing. I don't share it a whole lot because I also don't think that most of the people who watch my videos are fantasy readers. The magical readathon is mostly a fantasy based readathon that is made by G over at Book Rose. It's a very big, complicated readathon. I will leave some information about it down below, but if you don't really get what I'm doing, don't worry about it. Just sit back, relax, we're going to have some fun. It's okay if you don't really understand everything about the readathon. I don't even think I do. You need to read certain books and you have certain prompts. So I am, this year in 2024, I've been a craft mage. In 2023. 2022, I think I was like a dream something. Oh, I don't remember. But this year I'm going to be a beastmaster. Not necessarily because of the easy prompts, because it does have easier prompts, because I'm just kind of vibing with that this year. It's probably because I've discovered Fourth Wing in January. So I'm all about the magical creatures right now. So I've done my spring thing. So it's a readathon that has like 2 points in a year. So I've done my spring thing. I'm not gonna mention that again. And right now it's autumn and boy's calling me. Hey!
Hey, er komt nog eens op.
Love you!
Love you.
Yes, that was my husband calling me from the supermarket that they were out of cucumbers. Okay, that's very interesting information. Let's get back to the readathon. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is elemental studies, and I have to read a book with my favorite scent. And I don't think I have a favorite scent, but I have scents that are current favorites. And currently rose is my favorite scent because I have perfume that's rose. So I'm going to start reading a romance series that is called the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver.
Confuse this with another Elsie Silver series I want to read. The Rose Hill series actually sounds pretty crap, so I change this out later in the vlog.
Normal studies, I have to do 3 prompts, and the first one is a phoenix undercover or the title, and I found an historical fiction that is by Ruth Hogan. I did own a book by her before, but I haven't read it.
I change this out later as well, so ignore me once again.
The second prompt is a standalone, and I'm gonna pick a book that I started listening to. I'm really enjoying, that is Pandora by Susan Stokes Chapman. This is also historical fiction. I thought it was a myth historical fiction, but it's not. It's set later. And then the other prompt is a book that has had a cover change. And I think, I'm not sure if it's UK-US cover change, but this is definitely a newer cover, and that is The Gender Games by Juno Dawson. This is a non-fiction. There is another cover that looks like this. I don't know if this is the US cover and that is the UK one, because this is a UK author. It has a different cover and I definitely prefer this one. Right, the next reading prompt is for alchemy, and that says one that you think will make you emotional. So I'm going to pick our Whimsical Readers book club read, which is called State of Sorrow. Just the title in itself, State of Sorrow, I think this is definitely going to try and evoke emotions. Whether or not it will make me personally emotional, I don't know, but the title in itself is emotional enough, I think. I have more, yes. I have 2 more prompts, so we're gonna read quite a few books. I will take all of September to see if I can fulfill these prompts. And then we have Restoration. And then we have Night Sky on the cover, and I'm gonna pick our Thomas Hardy read-along book, which will be, I think, one of the first books I read for this vlog. And this one is the Woodlanders, and it has a night sky on this older Wordsworth edition. The last prompt is one that has poisonous plants on the cover. So there are book club reads depending on what house you're in. And the house I am in is going to read a book that I think is the cozy fantasy. It's called The Spell Shop. I've been seeing it making its rounds on BookTube. I have no idea if I will like it, but it sounds witchy and cozy, which is usually something I enjoy. It's gonna be a book club read, but because I think it's a witch's home, there has to be a plant on there that is poisonous. I don't know anything about plants, but I'm sure there's a poisonous plant on there, so I'm gonna use it for that prompt. Which will leave me with 7 books for this vlog, 2 of which I was already going to read for book clubs. Other things I'm going to do in September is start the Halloween prep for October, so I need to order a whole bunch of spooky books. I want to design to spooky bookmarks myself in the same kind of theme as the other bookmarks from Milena's Bookshop. So yeah, let's go make those things. The bookmarks just came in. We're going to have a little bit extra because they will be having a tassel. I have finally done a little bit of a cleanup in this room. I've been neglecting it the entirety of August, if I'm honest. But I finally dusted everything, cleaned everything, and mostly just tidied it all. My desk was littered with papers and everything that I was using for work. And now it's quite zen in here, and I might even spend the evening reading in this room. Although I'm not entirely sure because my eyes are really bothering me. Like, you can even tell that they're like dry. They're a little bit painful, which I get when the fatigue is fatiguing. Then my eyes kind of act up, get really strained. So maybe I should listen to audiobooks. And I did remember that boy gifted me this for my birthday, which is a wooden bloom craft, which again, I also need my eyes, but maybe not. I don't think it's like super detailed. Maybe it is. And then I can listen to Pandora, which is a book I'm listening to. So Pandora is set, I think it's Victorian era or maybe a little bit earlier. The time period isn't very clear, and maybe it's also not very important because it's historical magical realism. And we follow Pandora, who is not the Greek goddess, which I thought I was reading a Greek myth when I picked up this book. We follow Pandora. She works in an antique shop. It used to be her parents, but now it's her uncle's because he inherited it. He has not done well with the shop, and just things are going on there. And she works there still for her uncle, and she needs to find out something. I'm gonna be super vague about this book. And she meets a man who works at a bookbindery. And this man has a lot of interest in antiques, and they try to figure out a bit of a mystery together. And I think we're going to get a romance between them. I think was hinted on the blurb, but I would also be fine if it wouldn't be a romance. I'm sorry if I moved. I had to change the battery. But right now the plot feels very singular, where they're really just working together and trying to find something out. Even though I'm not halfway through the book, I still feel like the book is in the beginner's phase and it's not a series. So that is feeling a little bit strange, but it's so atmospheric. I'm really enjoying that. I do think the myth of Pandora and Pandora's jar is going to be part of this book, and I'm really curious to see how much magical realism is going to play a part in this. For someone who really follows quite some Instagram accounts and booktubers who read a lot of historical fiction, I've totally missed this one. I don't even know when it came out, but I haven't seen any hype around this. Maybe it's because it's not very good, but I'm enjoying it so far. I've also started the Whimsical Readers book club read State of Sorrow. I think this is quite a standard YA fantasy. It's where the world feels really small and strange, and there's a hint of dystopia about it, and our main character is part of the people who run the place. I did like the opening where her family dynamics were kind of explored before she was born, and then we jump 18 years into the future, or she's now 17 years into the future, and we follow her as she tries to, I think, govern her family state. Like, her name is Sorrow, so State of Sorrow. And her father is having a lot of mental health issues and addiction issues. I think for an older fantasy, it did feel really fresh at the time. But maybe not really anymore. I would not have picked this up on my own, so I was quite surprised when Lucy picked it, because never heard of it. Never even heard Milena Salisbury, who is the author. But yeah, I'm not really racing through this one. I think I'm now on 20 or 18%, and I have about a week left to read it, but my Kindle is kind of bothering my eyes. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do reading wise. I could also pick up a physical book. Maybe it will work better for my eyes, even though usually my eyes really like my Kindle. Eyes, yes. I am making dinner right now. I'm being a true millennial because a part of my dinner is in the air fryer right now. Going downstairs and finish it off with a salad. And then we're gonna have a nice dinner. Hopefully I can relax here and see what my eyes are willing to do for me tonight. perfectionist, but I would say that I have very high expectations of myself, of what I can handle. What I do doesn't have to be perfect, but my to-do lists are extremely long, and somehow, since starting a business, I have discovered that to-do lists never go smaller, they only go bigger. Whilst yesterday it was Monday and I made... phone right here. I made a very concise to-do list for the rest of the week, and then I worked for most of the day and I could only cross off one thing. I don't know how that was possible. Today I need to wait for a shipment of some new books that are mostly restocked items. One of that item was sold yesterday already as a bit of a pre-order. So once that comes in, it's Tuesday. On Tuesday I ship everything. I have so far 2 orders to pack, but it kind of depends. If I get more orders today, I will also ship them today. So that is what I need to do today. I also thought I would do a social media day, which I usually have 1 day a week, where I film some things for social media, but I'm just not feeling inspired. And I feel if you try to make content for your business while you don't really want to, I think it shows. It's better to just not upload for 1 or 2 days. Which TikTok and Instagram, they are very different. It's so strange. If you take a little break from TikTok for a few days, they really boost the next video you post. It's so strange. And the way people connect with Instagram and TikTok is also really strange, because people place an order if they see you on TikTok way sooner than they do on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, they want to follow you for a few weeks first before they do that. In TikTok, it's just they see the video, buy the product. Even though I don't really love to use TikTok for personal things, I don't really scroll on TikTok. I just post the things that I also make on Instagram, which in the beginning I didn't want to do. It doesn't work negatively. Most people are either on Instagram or on TikTok and not on both. So it's not like a lot of people see duplicates. Even though I don't love TikTok, it is generating a lot of sales. So I will keep on going with TikTok. So that is an update about my life. How it's a little bit stressful with the business. Talking about it already helps to calm me down a little bit. It's mid-September now and I've been preparing for the spooky season for a few weeks. Most of that goes live on the 1st of October, and then I kind of just want to let that exist. I have bought a lot of silly, cheap Halloween decorations because I don't really have that. And I want to kind of decorate my webshop and make a few spooky just content pieces, TikToks, but also maybe a few Instagram posts. And I want to really have a day where I just shoot all of that content and that I can just use whenever I need to in October. Because I have so many spooky things. I have bookmarks that I designed myself. We have, I can say everything now, right? Yes, this is gonna be uploaded at the end of September. Yeah, so bookmarks. I have a few things from a British illustrator, like washi tape, notebooks. I'm going to do a gothic mystery bag, which I'm really excited about. And I have some annotation pencil cases and fancy tote bags that all are classic literature themed. So I have quite a lot of spooky things. I also had to get a lot of bookish goodies, of course, because I'm doing the gothic mystery bag, which has 3 bookish goodies, which all needs to be a gothic literature theme. So I think I will just, I don't know if it will be a super permanent feature, maybe just for the rest of 2024, or maybe just October, kind of depends if I run out of gothic literature themed bookish goodies. And then in October, I'm going to work on Christmas. Everyone says it's a really big deal for small businesses, so I want to do it well. I have ideas, but I really need to sit down, try and figure everything out financially. But I hope Milena's Bookshop is going to be a great place to get gifts for people for Christmas. Again, sorry, I keep on rambling on about business updates because I have finished 2 books. So I finished State of Sorrow for the Whimsical Readers Book Club. And that one was fine. I gave it 3.5 stars. We did have a live show where we mentioned it, but it's a bit of a classic YA, which of course is what it is, because it was published quite a while ago. So no real surprises there. I did like the feminism in the book, and I did like the relationships. I really enjoyed most of them. The political stuff I don't care about, because it's, of course, it's a YA fantasy, so it's unrealistic. Consequences and actions don't really add up and match together, so I have no interest in reading the second book. And the second book I did read a whole spoiler review that someone did, and that only confirmed the fact that I shouldn't have read it. It was still fun to chat about it with Lucy and Mary. I also finished Pandora, and it's so strange because this could be a novel that is so for me. It's historical fiction with Greek myth interwoven. And usually I would really enjoy something like this. The book could have been that immersive historical fiction that is so strongly character focused, but to me it never quite did it. It felt like the first book in a series that is like really a first book and so much more needs to happen. But most of the plot happened in like the last 50 pages. The main characters felt just not fleshed out well enough to really get immersed in the story very well. So while the atmosphere definitely worked for me, I just don't think the plot devices were used well. It can be hard to describe why a book just doesn't really work for you, but this again was a 3-star. It means I'm going to start with the Woodlanders. I have tapped everything, 25 pages a day before the live show, and I've also started listening to The Spell Shop, which is already adorable so far. It starts off with our main character who works in a library that is like hinted that it's the Library of Alexandria, then in a magic world, and apparently the royals have been overthrown and the revolutionaries have taken over, but they have set the library on fire. So again, we get a little bit of myth hints there, which I love, and she tries to save a few of the books. And in this fantasy land there are, I think it's like Venice, where you have the canals, and she takes the books on the boat together with a tree-like magical creature. That's all I've listened to. I just listened to half an hour. It seems really adorable so far. I'm not the biggest fan of the audiobook narrator. She's a little bit too, I want to say, quirky. I prefer a more calm, monotone audiobook narrator versus a narrator who really uses a lot of expressions and is very active and just a little bit busy to listen to. Those kind of narrators, when you listen to them on 1x speed, you feel like you're listening on 1.5 already. I want my narrators to be slow and I want to speed them up myself. Yeah, I mean, I'm not super specific with narrators, so I'm sure I will get used to this narrator, but it's not my favorite so far. So if I could have picked, I probably would have gone for this one physically. I don't own a book, so I'm just gonna listen to the audiobook and I will check in with you once I have more updates. Welcome to what I hope will be a really book-filled weekend. I got a new pair of dungarees and they're the cutest thing I've ever seen. I don't know if they will top my Moon and Stars dungaree, which is my favorite so far, but I love this one. There's the magical readathon all-nighter and the sprints have just started, and I started with a review copy that I received this week from a Dutch publisher. More on this later. Mary sent me my birthday gift, which got a bit delayed in the mail, but she sent me a whole personalized package with all kind of things that she knows I like. I opened it in private because it was just kind of a beautiful moment just for me, but I'll show you a few things that were in there. First, she got me all kinds of nice teas. She got me a red velvet tea, which is my favorite, but I also really like the cinnamon bun tea, which I'm having right now. I'm also making the first cinnamon buns of the season. They're rising right now. I'll put them in the oven later and have a little snack maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight. Who am I kidding? And Mary also got me a poetry collection. So this is a Portuguese poetry collection that is bilingual, which I really love. So one part is Portuguese, which of course I cannot read and try. And the other side is English. And she knows that I really love reading books from different places. I'm really glad that she got me something from Portugal. And this is by Amalia Rodriguez, which I hope I say right, and this is a Fado singer who also writes poetry. So thank you so much, Mary, but I thanked you already. But yeah, this is a poetry collection that I hope to read very soon. Yes, I switched around one of the prompts because I was mistaken with the Elsie Silver series. So I picked another, what I thought would be a romance. This is one of the wildest books and one of the books that I think maybe isn't that good, but I still gave it a 5 stars because I just had all the feelings with this book, and that is One to Watch. I picked this for Rose because she has roses on her dress on the cover. Right away with this book I identified a lot with the main character. She has my clothing size and my age, but a very different kind of life than I do. She is single and she is invited to participate in a fictional version of The Bachelor. Now, I never watch reality TV or The Bachelor, not with any specific reason, it just I'm not drawn to it. And there were things in this book because she goes through the whole thing where The Bachelor goes through. I guess the special thing about this is that she is plus size, and she wrote a blog about the fact that no one on The Bachelor is ever plus size and she got invited to participate. But it's wild. The Bachelor is wild, and I needed to know if it was just the book or the reality series. So I watched a few clips on YouTube, and it's the reality series. On one hand, I'm like, girl, you deserve it, go for it. And on the other hand, I'm like, this is so wrong. I guess that was the fun of it, because it was wild, it was insane, and I particularly liked it because I could identify so well with the thoughts and the struggles that the main character had. In a way that society viewed her, because that feels very similar to what I encounter, as well as someone who is her size and her age. That was a lot of fun. I just gave it 5 stars. I have started the Woodlanders. I don't really have any thoughts on it so far, except for that I think it will be a juicy Thomas Hardy. I feel like there are serious Thomas Hardys and there are juicy ones. I feel like this is gonna be a juicy one. And then my most difficult prompt for this vlog was Phoenix on the cover. I did get a book that I'm excited about. It has Phoenix on the cover, which is a new series by India Holton. But I'm just not that up for another fantasy. There's a whole thing with this readathon where you can use points. I'm not going to get into it here because you're just here for the books. But I'm going to use a different prompt. And that prompt is to read a book you have most recently bought or borrowed. So I decided to pick up this review copy that I got this week. This is an Argentinian novel. This is the Dutch translation. The English translation is called Thirst. This is a sapphic vampire literary fiction. Usually when publishers contact me, I don't take the books because I feel like I just don't have time with it, because I just want to prioritize the classic literature I want to read or the silly fun books I want to read. I just usually feel a bit guilty for accepting a book I know I won't read anytime soon. But this was different because I felt like, okay, vampires, October, and I'm just really in the mood to read this. For me, it felt like Interview with the Vampire, like a description, but sapphic. While I really didn't like that film, it freaked me out. Like I'm not good with blood on screen. Like blood in books is fine, but on screen it's like, oh, please no. So I thought I could give this a go. The tagline said, a story of sex, love, boredom and blood. A lot of blood. So yeah, I'm a bit scared, but I also kind of like to read something like this in a literary fiction format, especially because it's from Argentina and I've read some really great literary fiction from Argentina. This author is new to me though. I've read the first chapter. I'm not loving the translation. It feels a little bit rough in the sense that I feel like I want to make editorial changes, which sounds so arrogant and it's not something I usually experience, but it just doesn't flow very naturally. Dutch is a language that can very soon feel a little bit old and not in a good way. Written language and speaking language are quite different, and written language can feel very dated very soon, and this feels a little bit dated. Language wise, but I love the setting. Our main character is a woman and a mother, and she takes her son to a graveyard that they often take walks on, and it's very strange and it's already about bones and flesh and weird stuff. I hope the translation will be a little bit smoother throughout the rest of the book, but I don't know. The last time I read a Dutch translation I had a really bad time as well, and it's not because I don't enjoy reading in Dutch, because when Dutch is the original language I can really enjoy it. Just don't really get along with the translations really well. My cinnamon buns still need to rise for another half hour, but I can hear boy making noises in the kitchen, so I guess it's gonna be dinner time for us. I have finished the Woodlanders. Oh, and it's chilly today. Although boy said it wasn't chilly, but we're both just a little bit sick. I don't know what it is, but it's the kind of cold flu thing that is kind of just lingering. We're not getting super sick. Yeah, I hope I don't get a full-blown flu, because I've not had the flu yet since opening the bookshop. Looking at how many months that is, like December this year is so unique for me. It's kind of amazing. But I have made a little manual for if I am like really sick, for someone else to know how to ship packages so that I don't get like weird delays. But I hope I won't get super sick. But I'm not feeling my best, but I did finish The Woodlanders this morning, and while not my favorite Thomas Hardy, it definitely lived up to the Thomas Hardy quality for me. It was enjoyable. It had all the Thomas Hardy things about marriage and class, interesting characters that I want to be in there. Talking about the book right now, I left all my notes downstairs, and I have the live show in half an hour, so I need to get back downstairs and grab it again, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you have chronic fatigue, every time you need to walk up the stairs is one time too often. Another book that I am near to finishing is The Spell Shop. I didn't particularly enjoy this in the beginning. Whilst fun, I didn't feel it was particularly unique or enjoyable. It felt a little bit like TJ Klune to me, which I've read one book from. Not a fan, didn't hate it, but just wasn't good. So I thought, okay, this is kind of the same kind of cozy fantasy that no punishment to read, but it's really not that fun. But it's getting better because we're getting more magic and we're getting more romance, which are two parts that I really enjoy. There is more of a political plotline happening as well right now, which I do not enjoy in fantasy. If I read about politics, I want it to be our current day or our own world politics that actually like matter, not fantastical fictional politics that don't have any effect on us whatsoever or are not there for me to educate myself on. It just has no added value to me and I find it boring. I have not read anything more of the vampire book because I've been like last minute reading The Woodlanders. There are still a few days left of September, so I hope I can read a little bit more of the vampire book this weekend and then also read and the non-fiction, which I did find an audiobook for, so I think I will listen to the audiobook, which is narrated by the author, which I love. She doesn't narrate her other books. I love a memoir type non-fiction book narrated by the author. And then we are done with this TBR and I'm going into the Victober TBR for October. But yeah, first I need to do this live show and get my notes. Me and the stairs and my chronic fatigue are not friends. Yeah, The Woodlanders is gonna be a challenging book to talk about because I feel like both me and Mary have read a little bit of Thomas Hardy. It's not a Thomas Hardy book that really stands out or has a lot of new elements. It's just like, yeah, we know that Thomas Hardy does this and he did it again. So I did make a few talking points, but I don't think it's going to be a long live show.
Am I going to read the sequel?
When we're done with the live show, I just want you to tell me what happens in the sequel, and
Yeah,
then I
same,
feel like I've
same.
read it. Ooh, I just looked at my right, and I see our next read. Have we announced it yet?
But
Yeah.
we can talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, should I?
Yeah.
I mean, we better because we just finished our...
Exactly.
This is Mary's pick. It is
Yes.
Stripping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. Hello everyone and welcome to Some Reading Sprints. I just said to Mary, I don't remember how to do this. And I found the timer and the timer was a Christmas theme. Yes, we're live. Okay, hi.
Hi.
StreamYard like tells me it's showtime, which
Ooh.
we are here to discuss for the Thomas Hardy Readalong our summer pick, which is The Woodlanders. Oh gosh, I love your edition. That is so cute.
But I do love the themes. I kind of sense that Thomas Hardy always kind of explores the same things, but it's just in a different manner depending on the story and the characters. But I like seeing that. And overall, I would say I liked it. I think the audiobook definitely helped. But overall, I enjoyed the story. I feel like I love the themes more than the story itself.
Hi and welcome to what I can only describe as a very gloomy autumn afternoon. I have gone a little bit crazy on the pumpkin spice this year. My mom just came over and I made pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls, of which I don't know if I made any pictures. And I made a pumpkin spice chai iced latte for us. And I had a pumpkin spice latte, my very first of the season, for breakfast. And I'm still not sick of it. It is the 2nd of October, so I'm going into my Victober read. But before I do that, let's talk about the books I finished. The first one was The Spell Shop and I ended up enjoying this a lot. So the first half wasn't that amazing for me, which I think I discussed in this vlog before. But the second half just came together so beautifully for the characters. I really liked the love interest. I just really liked our main character. It's so beautiful and fantastical. The plot really worked. There was a little bit more of political elements, but they were all interwoven very well with the character's story arc. And I just thought it was really, really well done, and it was so much fun, so cozy. I feel that maybe we will get a sequel. If we don't, I'm going to be very sad because I think there's so much to explore, especially within their romance. Also within the island that this book is set on. I want to know more about the living plants, which was one of my favorite parts of this book. I always love like magical creatures in fantasies. It's so cozy and I would highly recommend this. I gave it 4 stars. How do I talk about this? Thirst. I gave this a 3.5 star. I really enjoyed the vampire bits, but we have 2 main characters. We just have a human woman and we have a vampire. I love the vampire bits. They were so crazy and adventurous, but we got into a little bit more of literary fiction territory with, I would want to say, like this last part of the book where we follow the first main character that I mentioned in the beginning of this vlog, in which we open the book and then we switch to a vampire who is supposedly one of Dracula's brides. Dracula is not mentioned, but it's very clear if you've read Dracula by Bram Stoker that that is what she is based on, because his brides were all murdered and she is the only surviving bride of Dracula. I don't even know if Bram Stoker uses the word bride or just his wives. I don't remember if that's something that we have created in pop culture or that is from the book. I don't remember these kind of details. But that I really enjoyed, and she eventually travels to Buenos Aires, in which this book takes place. And she lives there throughout the yellow fever, which is a big moment for her, because then she can go out murdering without really people noticing, because so many people are dying. She has different lovers, different murder stories. She is a top tier serial killer and you don't read her that way. I just had a really fun time with that because it was just so adventurous and so crazy. But when we went back to our human main character whose mother is dying, and of course it's really connected to that idea of blood, death. Thematically it makes sense that we switch back to her and that we switch back to what everything that the vampire does means for human beings. So sexual desire, the desire for death or for life, and what death means to a human physique and mentally as well. But I just kind of lost it when we came back to the human, because I missed the adventure, I missed the craziness. The writing to me wasn't strong enough to really enjoy it as a literary fiction. So therefore I'm going to give it a 3.5. The literary fiction part may have been strong for me if the writing had been different, because I do think the character was interesting and what was happening in the story was interesting, but I especially loved the vampire bit. And I'm not a vampire girly, that says a lot. I definitely want to read more by this author. I'm very curious to see what other crazy things they have come up with. They have written much more, but I don't think everything is translated in either English or Dutch. Thank you so much to the publisher for sending this to me to review. I did also start the last book on this TBR, but I'm not going to finish it for this vlog, and that is the Gender Games. I already really enjoy the introduction. I know a little bit about Juno Dawson because when I started reading Her Majesty's Royal Coven, I googled her a bit and read a few interviews. So nothing very new here in the first few chapters for me, but I'm enjoying the narration and I feel like this is going to be a really good one, and I will discuss it probably in one of my first Victober vlogs, which will be all about Victorian literature so far. I started with The Doctor's Wife yesterday because Katie was doing a reading sprint, and I read the first 2 chapters and it's so funny. It's so entertaining, which I also surprised. I did not know this was so funny. I am curious to see if that is something that will hold up throughout the novel, because I do think it's going into more serious themes, with it being a reaction to Madame Bovary, which is quite a serious novel. But I would love it if it would stay humorous, because I actually giggled, which I don't think I have done before. Maybe with some passages or some Dickens characters, but I cannot remember giggling at Victorian literature very often. I think it's going to be a good time and I would love to see you in one of those future vlogs. For now, I hope that you have a lovely day or evening, and I hope to see you in the next video. Doei!